Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Cold Case Christmas. In this episode, we're going to the quiet community of Oak Level in Virginia, where in 2002, a horrific, premeditated act of evil occurred. An entire family slaughtered. This is the case of the Short family murders. Michael Wayne Short was born in 1952. He'd had a family of 3 sons with his first wife. Sadly, that marriage didn't last and Michael divorced. After his divorce, he found love again with Mary Hall, who was 14 years his junior. They eventually got married and their only child, Jennifer, was born in July of 1993. Jennifer was doted on by her parents, perhaps a little bit spoiled, but maybe in a good way. Jennifer was in 4th grade at elementary school. She was sweet and cheerful, very close to her parents. They loved to spend time together. Jennifer had her own little group of friends and she was doing really well. Michael's Uncle Frank said they worshipped the ground she walked on. A family friend remembers of the Shorts that they were good people, very quiet, they kept themselves to themselves, they never bothered anybody, and they were just down-to-earth, everyday people. Michael owned and operated his own company called MS Mobile Home Movers, but it wasn't doing too well, and they were selling their house. Plan was to move into one of Michael's mobile home temporarily until they got back on their feet again. But they'd not done that yet, so they were still living in their home whilst it was on the market. Okay, so what happened? Well, August the 14th, 2002, very uneventful. Chris Thompson, who was one of Michael's employees and his friend, to come over to help Michael with a truck. They worked on the truck and they talked quite late into the evening. And when Chris left, everything was fine. The last reported sighting of the family, all together, alive and well, was around 11 p.m. when they went out for a late night Burger King. It was just a normal day. That takes us to what happened on the morning of August the 15th. As planned, around 9 a.m, Chris Thompson returned. He and Michael had arranged that they were going to go and pick up a truck in Christiansburg relating to Michael's business. Chris noted that the garage door was still open, but, it's 9 a.m, maybe Michael's up and about already, he's opened the garage. So Chris stepped inside. What absolutely floored him was 50-year-old Michael lying dead, shot in the head on a couch that he had in the garage. He often slept there. Chris was appalled, and his thought was, where's Mary and Jennifer? So he went into the house and there was 36-year-old Mary lying lifeless in bed. She too had been killed with a single gunshot to the head. But where was Jennifer? Chris thought, well, maybe she heard the gunshots and she's run away. So anyway, Chris called the cops and both a murder inquiry ensued and also a hunt for little Jennifer. Friends and people in the local community who knew the Shorts as quiet, lovely people were absolutely shocked, and they were just hoping that Jennifer had run away and all they needed to do was find her. Now, cops began that murder investigation and they found that Mary and Michael had both been shot with a .22 caliber weapon. The shell casings were there near the bodies. Nothing was stolen from the house. There was $600 in cash sitting on a kitchen counter. Also, the phone line's been cut, like the house phone. The line's been cut. So this was clearly premeditated. This clearly was somebody who meant business. But what was the motive for this? It wasn't robbery. Was it to abduct Jennifer? Now, neighbours came forward to report that they'd seen an unfamiliar man. You know, this was a very quiet community. Everybody knew everybody else. But this unfamiliar man in a red or dark coloured van or pickup truck in the vicinity of the Shorts property around 8:30 that morning. But maybe that wasn't related because Mary and Michael had been dead longer than just half an hour, because Chris got there at 9. But a composite sketch was developed. This man was in his 40s, a weathered complexion. It was released to the public, but that man has never been identified. I do find it interesting he's never come forward, but then again, maybe he was just passing through. I don't know. So, the search for Jennifer, extensive. They covered hundreds of miles. Law enforcement, local volunteers, search and rescue groups, on ATVs, dog squad, helicopters, boots on the ground, people on horseback. A lake was searched, a pond close to the home was searched, but there was just nothing. Michael's uncle Frank made a public appeal for Jennifer's safe return. Drop her off at a Walmart, drop her off at a fire station, just drop her off anywhere. Just return her, please. In October of 2002, approximately 6 weeks after Michael and Mary had been murdered, Jennifer's skeletonized remains were located in a creek in Stoneville in North Carolina. So it was across state lines, but it was only about 35 miles away from the Shorts' home. And this discovery had been made by law enforcement after a local resident had called in. His dogs had brought back some bones, and one of them looked like a piece of a human skull. So police investigated, and testing was done, and lo and behold, it was little Jennifer Short. It was a tragic blow to the rest of the Shorts family and friends and the local community. People just could not understand why this family had been massacred. So there's been various theories over the years. Some people have wondered whether the murders was some kind of revenge against Michael or Mary. It wasn't likely that Jennifer had met a predator because her parents, doted on her. They were so protective of her, and they didn't actually have internet in the house. So, Jennifer encountering an online predator wouldn't happen. Was it a predator from the local community who'd been watching her? Possibly. Another theory went down a really dark avenue, to be honest. A year before Jennifer was born, Mary was working as a seamstress, and she got a stalker. Nothing really serious happened, but several times a man had visited the company, angrily demanding to see Mary. He didn't work there. He was always escorted off the premises. Mary didn't want the police to be notified. This man obviously got the message, didn't bother Mary again. But it did come up as part of the investigation, and it was speculated that perhaps that man was Jennifer's biological father. This was like a year before Jennifer was born. Theory was, well, maybe this man was jealous of Michael bringing up Jennifer, and he came, murdered Michael and Mary, and then stole Jennifer. But then again, why would they murder her? Because Jennifer had suffered the same fate of her parents, a shot to the head. But this did have to be crossed off the list. However dark this was, it had to be crossed off the list. And to test the theory, Michael's body was exhumed for further DNA analysis. But it turned out that Michael was Jennifer's biological father, so this potential lead just hit another dead end. Chris Thompson, the guy who'd been there the night before and who discovered Michael and Mary's bodies, was investigated. He was ruled out. He wasn't there. He had alibis. He was not there. It wasn't him. Could it be an employee, a disgruntled from some point in the past. Some of them were transients looking for short-term work, so that couldn't be ruled out. But there wasn't one particular person that stood out to anybody. Now, there was a promising lead, though. A tip came in, naming a carpenter, 66-year-old Garrison Bowman, who apparently did, at some point in the past, harbour a grudge against Michael Short. He'd said that he might have to kill a man in Virginia who had failed to move his mobile home, even after Bowman had paid him to do so. Well, there was only one person that could have related to. That's Michael Short. To add a little bit of fuel to this theory, Jennifer's remains were found just a mile away from a friend of Bowman's, where his mobile home was located at the time, and he fled to Canada. He was eventually extradited back to the United States, where he was held on charges related to the violation of immigration laws and for a DUI. He even appeared before a grand jury, but no indictment was returned. There's nothing concrete to tie him to the case. He reportedly had an alibi. In 2007, so 5 years after the murders, authorities eventually said that he was no longer considered a person of interest. He was the most promising lead to that point, but they didn't have anything on him. He's the only person that's ever actually been named as a suspect, and that's where this case is to this very day. Now, every year, someone called Ray Reynolds, a former neighbour of the Shorts, organises a motorbike ride in honour of the family. And he said, "I made a promise I continue to do this until someone is brought to justice. And it just breaks my heart that this has not been solved. If any of you have kids, love your kids all you can. Just think about what the Short family have been through and what happened to that little girl." The Henry County Sheriff's Office was awarded a grant that might help them use advanced scientific testing on items collected from the crime scene. In storage, there was actually 66 boxes of items with possible evidentiary value. But even with all of that potential evidence, there's still no answers. So anybody with information about this case is asked to contact the FBI tip line on 1-800-225-5324 or Crime Stoppers, and you can do that anonymously, on 1276-632-7463. Even though this case is 22 years old, it is still an open case, and maybe just one tip could really ignite this case again, and finally there would be an answer to who murdered Michael, Mary and little Jennifer Short. So sad. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.